Vicki Barbolak. It's Trailer Nasty, the podcast, and this is our special Veterans Day show. And I have to say, I'm sitting here next to my favorite veteran, my son-in-law, Gunny Sergeant Tim Chandler.
Good morning.
We're sitting here at the trailer, and I thought we could hear some cool stories from Tim.
Well, first, I just want to say Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to get to kind of talk on that day. It's really special to me, so thank you for that.
So Tim, what made you decide to enlist in the Marine Corps, and how old were you?
So I enlisted when I was 19 years old. I was just out of high school. I was working in a lumber mill up in Central Oregon. And I was just kind of spinning my wheels. Didn't know what I wanted to do. And then one morning, my recruiter called, Gunnery Sergeant Don Johnson. I think he retired as a Master Sergeant, I'm not sure. But a lot of people have bad stories about their recruiters, how they talked them into something they maybe didn't want to do at the time. For me, it was an enjoyable experience, and I'm always thankful for my recruiter. But he took me down to MEPS. I did well on the testing there, and they told me I could have any job that I wanted. I got signed up for the job I wanted.
Smart.
And then the rest is history, and shipped off to boot camp. And yeah, it was a really good choice for me. It gave me focus and drive, discipline, and direction, all kind of stuff I think I needed as a kid. I mean,
Tim, how do you think the Marines shaped you as a man?
I think as a young man, it was very important for me. It gave me drive. It gave me a sense of purpose and direction, and I got really, internally a lot of pride for myself, and it's I think it's really great for a young man to get that. I've been back to college since I got out of the military, and there's definitely a difference with the young people who go straight into college and those who go and serve. They have a different kind of swagger about them. So yeah, I think that was probably some of the biggest things. I mean, and the support of people when you served is way different, I think. I remember the first time I seen you, we were having a car wash for our unit to raise funds for the Marine Corps birthday ball. And,
Best thing ever, ladies.
And she came by that day to get her car washed 3 times. And she pretty much
Very dirty car.
that week she kind of paid for the Marine Corps birthday ball for
Absolutely.
us.
I'm a giver. They wear only shorts, ladies. If there's a base nearby you in summertime, you can't spend a better day.
Yeah,
Sit in your car while they wash it.
And it's by donation, and she always donated every time she came up. So she kind of paid for our Marine Corps birthday ball by doing that for us.
I had to sell blood.
She's a giver.
But it was worth it.
She's a giver.
You were involved in the first Gulf War, right?
The one in 2003.
Yeah.
Right.
And what was it like the first time you saw battle? Was it what you expected?
It was not. It was different. The way we kind of practice and everything when you're in the military, you're just seems like you're practicing every day. I was in for 3 years before I went to Iraq, and it was every day was like, oh, I'm practicing to do this job, and you're really excited to get the opportunity to do it. And and I think it didn't matter how much I prepared. When I got there, it was still shocking. And you develop very unique relationships with the people you're with, lifelong relationships, but they're very compartmentalized because you're going to move along from people. You're going to lose people along the way, and you might run into them again later on, and you pick up right where you left off. But the relationships are very contained that way. And I think that that's something that the Marine Corps and the military in general uh, just by design ends up doing with people.
That's what all that comes from, that you just will never leave somebody out there. You'll do everything you can to save somebody.
I think that's full on part of the heart of the military. And I really believe that a lot of the people that join kind of have that mentality about them already. They have always had a service type of heart, and it takes I think a special breed of person just to volunteer to be in the military. We have a luxury in the United States of having an all volunteer service. And we have lots of young men and women that will volunteer to defend our country, and I think that's a big part
You
of
know,
it.
Tim, how many times did you deploy?
So I deployed to combat 4 times. I did a couple of humanitarian missions as well. So I did 3 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. I did a standby for evacuation of civilians in India and in Japan in the earthquake and meltdown of 2011.
That's when you were in Guam. That last time when you were in Guam for a year.
No, in Japan.
Japan for
Yeah,
a year.
in Okinawa. Yes.
Okinawa, I mean.
Yeah.
So Tim, you know, we missed you so much when you were gone. You were gone. You missed the birth of Timmy, your first son. And I was there and I held the phone for you, so it's kind of like you were there. And you came home a week later. You just came a week early and ruined everything. But it was great because Tim was actually in the field, like literally in the field. But he was able to get to a phone to be there. And I held the phone when Timmy was being born. And I did the play-by-play. And he said I did a terrible job of it, pretty much. Right? Didn't I do a terrible job?
No, you did great. It was great. It was
I did
it
terrible.
was fine.
So, you know, that was a huge sacrifice that you made and vets make. That you're gone from your families for so long. That must be, it's hard on the families, but they at least have each other. You're there without them at all.
Yeah, and I think it's, to put it in the perspective, it's really, I was a kid, you know. When I had my first kid, I was only 24, and the guys that are joining right now, there's guys in the military that were born after the year 2000. They're very young, and they're willing to take on the burden of protecting our country, and it was a sacrifice that I was very willing to make to do that, and I know that those guys out there today are the same.
I think, you know, watching my daughter Emily handle the deployments and the children handle them, they did really well, but it's a lot of deployments these days. Like the children, you know, you guys repeated deployments. I mean, I think it's different than it used to be. There's just it's almost like every other year you're gone for almost a year by the time you factor in training. So that was a lot, and it is a huge sacrifice. Then if you're not involved with the military and you don't know what family life is like, I mean, it's an amazing amount of time away from their families, doing dangerous, hard work for us. So I think that every time we think about veterans, we have to really think about what they're doing. They're literally sacrificing, not only putting their lives on the line, they're giving up their life with their families. Do you know what that would be like? It's really hard.
Most of the time, veterans aren't very good at receiving compliments or receiving stuff from people, but I would just say, and something that I like to do around Veterans Day is I like to seek out a veteran, have a good conversation with them, do my best to help out a veteran, because there's so many weekends and so many days off that we get to enjoy here because of them, but they do not get those days off. So many holidays and in times when they work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There's no time off. It's just like eat, work, sleep. That's it for 7 months, a year at a time. So if you get an opportunity to maybe use one of your days off to help them out, would be a big help to them. They may not be as receptive. They might want to help you back instead, but it's just a good way to say thank you.
And always, whenever you see a car wash, stop, ladies, and have your car washed.